Hello, everyone. Hello from myself too. I'm George. I'm happy that I'm starting this third day. Welcome, everyone. Uh, we're gonna see a few things about .NET Aspire. Of course, this is a big subject, and half an hour is definitely not enough. Nevertheless, I will try to give you an idea why .NET Aspire is a very, very cool thing that you might wanna start using immediately. So that's me. I'm George. I'm actually based in Munich. I'm not currently living in Greece. I work for Slalom. It's a very big consultancy with more than 14,000 people. I'm a Microsoft MVP here in Munich, Germany, and I organize also the Munich.NET meetup. If you want to reach out, find one of the ways, bullets, LinkedIn, GitHub, my personal website, find a way and contact me, and I can help you with any questions you might have about this presentation or other stuff. Now, next slide. Salom, Germany. The format is a bit strange, probably because I uploaded. I hope that I am live already. So please confirm that the presentation is live and I should start. Okay, thank you, Anastasia. So, Slalom, Germany. As I said, 14,000 employees around the world, almost 3,000 Microsoft projects. We are a very good Microsoft partner. We are doing special tasks on behalf of them. We are actually Microsoft Center of Excellence. I'm not going to stay more here because this is a presentation about .NET Aspire and we don't have a lot of time. But let me say now, what is .NET Aspire? .NET Aspire is an opinionated framework. And why opinionated? Now, if we were in the live stage, I could very well ask, what do you think an opinionated framework is, right? An opinionated framework is a toolkit that makes specific choices about the actual tools and the practices that you're going to be using while developing your software. It is implying a recommended way of doing things. For example, OpenTelemetry, right? Now, it contains a lot of stuff. Some of those stuff, and let me change the presentation. This is kind of manual. It includes a lot of stuff. I grouped them into three sections, let's say. One of them is the orchestration that it does. The orchestration is, let's say, the features it provides to run and connect multiple projects. For example, you have a solution that you have a couple of APIs, maybe 50 if it's a microservices environment. You have a Redis cache somewhere, you have a PostgreSQL somewhere else, you have your front end that consumes all of that services. So .NET Aspire helps you do the orchestration and let's say service discovery. What you were doing in the past, most probably, would be either to deploy each of those services, if there were not that many, on your own, get the URL of the service and consume it from the service next to it, if you wanted to have that there. You could find a solution maybe with the DNS. So change the DNS and do service discovery in a sense through DNS. You could, of course, use Kubernetes or container or so other solutions. Now, .NET Aspire comes to abstract you from this work that you had to do by orchestrating stuff on its own. And under the hood, what it's doing actually, it has a key value dictionary that's hosting the URL that it automatically created for you, and then a keyword that it used to be mapped to that URL. We'll see that in practice later on. Then we have the components. The components are NuGet packages actually, and there are lots of them. It can be Redis cache, can be Postgres, Azure components, of course. You can have almost everything you need to actually create a new modern application there. We'll see part of those components later on. And then there is the tooling. This is easier to described, it's actually, you can do .NET Aspire applications through the CLI, the .NET CLI, or you can use Visual Studio. For now, they are available through the Visual Studio Preview edition. So it's not available from the normal edition, but I think it's very close. We are in Preview 4 already. Yeah, so before I move forward and let's see the next slide, it's about what the orchestration works, but what's the skeleton of a very simple .NET Aspire project. Let me tell you the following. Usually when Microsoft starts a new open source project, it's available for everyone. You can see it in GitHub and you can see how it evolves. That was not the case for the .NET Aspire. Why? Because it's very opinionated. What happened before the .NET Aspire started, Microsoft had a lot of sessions with MVPs from all around the world, getting information on how exactly we are creating a microservice application, how we're using container apps, what's missing. And based on all that, it created this opinionated framework. Now, it kept that as a secret up until the first day it was publicly available, in preview, but publicly available. Why? Because nevertheless, it is opinionated. Of course, it's using OpenTelemetry. Most of us are using OpenTelemetry, or we should be using anyway. There are people, though, that for some reason they don't like OpenTelemetry. And you can imagine if you had a GitHub repo full of those opinionated choices, you would also have an equivalent number of issues complaining about those choices. So the .NET Aspire was a privately built, let's say. I was within the lucky few ones towards the end that we had an opportunity to test it, and then it was announced as is. So I think what is added there that you will start seeing, you will like it. And if you don't like it, then unfortunately you will lose a lot of the goodies that it's adding. So having said that approach that they followed, this is what they came up with, right? We see here in that simplistic diagram that we have an app host project. This is the startup project. This is where everything is happening. We have the API service, which is something that we wrote. And we have the web front end. It can be Blazor or whatever you have, a static web app, it doesn't matter. And then this static web app is using both the API service, of course, to communicate and do stuff, but it also uses the cache service. So in a sense, what you see here is 3 projects right now. The app host project and 2 of your own, your API service that you might have and your web front end. So .NET Aspire adds the API, the app host project, and also adds a project named Service Defaults, where most of those opinionated choices have been made, and you have a chance of actually changing in quite a degree those choices. So you have 4 projects, and what happens with the cache, with the Redis cache? This is a one-liner. You'll see that you just add one line and you suddenly have Redis cache. Next, let's see the components. You are, sorry, next slide. You see, let's see the components. You are familiar with that first row over here, that you create a builder from any minimal API or ASP.NET MVP application you were working. The next line, the cache equals builder.add Redis cache, is what you're doing, the only thing you are doing to add Redis cache. What's happening under the hood is that the .NET Aspire grabs the container with Redis installed, configures it, sets the internal ports and the external ports, sets the URL, localhost 880, just randomly saying, and then it gets that URL and maps it with the word cache that you can see in the double quotes. So everything you need to know from now on for your project to work with the Redis cache is that word. You don't care about bringing that container up to life, spinning it up. You don't care about configuring the URLs of your Redis, of that container, how you access it. You don't care about anything. What's happening next is your API service. We're adding that into the builder, and we are adding your front end along with the references to the cache and to the API service. So what we are doing is those two lines over here that you see from the web front end bubble to API service and to cache. This is what's happening here, and then run. And that's it. So this is the app host project. So you understand maybe already that if you have an application, if you have an API and the web app frontend, those two projects, the only thing that you need to do to actually add .NET Aspire support is add the app host project with these lines and the service defaults that you don't do anything there. They are there. So it's very easy to add .NET Aspire support and then remove it when you don't want it for some reason, right? I think that's the last slide here. Works very well with Azure. What I could share my screen already, if you can help me here, I'll bring up a web page, the one that you're actually seeing, that you can see the number of components that are available for use. So let me know, someone, when you can see my shared screen, actually. Okay, I think now you see it, right? So I'm going, let's bring a browser up here, and let's go here. And these are the number of components that you can use. Some of them, like Kafka, for example, Redis, RabbitMQ, PostgreSQL, those are actually containers, right? So it has nothing to do with Azure so far. You can create an application full of containers and deploy those containers wherever you want. There is no cuts. You just deploy it wherever you want, but you're losing some of the goodies of easily deploying it into Azure. And of course, if you choose any of the Azure specific services, you need to have a subscription, a valid subscription, and the connection towards those services. So if you choose a container for Azure Service Bus, yes, it's one-liner, and yes, within that one line, they are configuring the service bus to be as correct as Microsoft believes it should be. Nevertheless, you also need to have a subscription towards that, right? So having said that, we have another 15 minutes. I think it's quite good if we could jump now to Visual Studio and actually see it happening, right? So let me start Visual Studio here and bring it to the screen I'm sharing. Takes some time. Takes more time than expected, but here it is. All right. Create a new project. This is the preview, as I said. So if I write here Aspire, oops. Oh, go back. I want to insert this first. Oh, come on. So we see a list of available projects for Aspire. One is the starter application. It's, let's say, a demo application with a Blazor front end and then a simple and minimal API as a backend, and also uses Redis cache, so you can find your way around. This is what we will be seeing. But you can create an empty .NET Aspire application, which doesn't mean a lot because you have the service defaults. You also have the tests, but we will not be covering this today. You have the service defaults and the app host, the two additional projects, as standalones, which means you can just add them to your existing application. You can add the service defaults, the app host, and you're done. You have a .NET Aspire application. Now let's see the starter and what that means. Yes. Give it a second. It opens in the other screen again. That's the start screen. Let's go see here to see what's happening. First of all, You see this message probably here because everything is NuGet packages. There is a vulnerability in the OpenTelemetry packages that you need to update. This is a preview. If I update to the latest studio version, then this is gone because they are using the 1.8.1 OpenTelemetry NuGet packages already. I'm not going to update them right now because we're not going to deploy anything, so I'm just going to hide that. You see here already that is NuGet package based, right? And let's start from the beginning. We assume here that this one, the API service, and this one are the projects that you already had. You had an API service, a minimal API, and a web frontend that you were doing stuff. And suddenly, what appears new in your life is your app host, the .NET Aspire app host, and the service defaults. If we go to the API service now, we'll see that actually nothing special is here. It's just a minimal API. It randomly selects, sets some temperature and weather. So it has nothing to do with reality, but that's what it does. If we go to the app host now, it's what we're seeing, right? This one line is what brings Redis, the Redis container up to life. This one is what adds the .NET Aspire API service. Let me put that here so I will not open and close it all the time. So this is the .NET Aspire service, the API service that you probably have already somewhere. And then you have your web frontend, this one, that uses the CAS and the API service. So connection is done. You see, up until now, the API service and, as you will see, the web frontend, nothing changed. You just added to these additional projects. Second project that you actually have as a new project, extensions. These are the service defaults. This is where everything opinionated happens. You have you are configuring OpenTelemetry in a specific format. You are configuring logging, health checks. You have two endpoints, /health endpoint and /alive endpoint. All these are used. So when you deploy your application, if you follow the process of deploying through Azure Developer to Container Apps, for example, those endpoints will be used. So feel free to change them, right? Or change the way you are logging, or use, for example, here, if you uncomment these lines, you can push all your telemetry or your logging to Azure Monitor. Or if you don't want that, you can do that to Prometheus, or you can write your own. You can push them in an Azure storage or wherever you want, right? So it does allows you quite a deal of flexibility. Nevertheless, by default, you have that. I would definitely, though there is a cost that you need to consider, but I would definitely enable this part so you can push all your telemetry to Azure Monitor, right? Now, we have another 11-ish minutes, 15 maybe. Let's go to the web app, last app, the last application. This is the client. This is just consuming the weather forecast. It has nothing to do with .NET Aspire. These are the components. Again, nothing to do with .NET Aspire. It's just a Blazor application, nothing special. These are the settings, nothing special. And these are the only changes that you will be needing to do. So that's the address. No change here. Sorry, I'm sorry. Properties, land settings, payout. So what's happening here is, at some point you need to talk with your CAS, right? So in this line, you're actually adding Redis CAS, the output CAS. You're instructing your Blazor app that, you know what, I want you to use Redis as output CAS and not the browser or any other kind of storage. And what it accepts here is actually a connection name. What you're having here is a word CAS, which is, if you remember here, that thing. So I can have that as cache 123, which means I must go back here and have that cache 123 here. So that's the connection thing. So the actual connection to the Redis cache is handled internally. You have nothing to worry about that. Same here. You see here, the name is actually API service. This is nothing that actually exists. But if you go here to the app host, you will see that that's the name. So if I change that to 123, I get that one here, and I come here and I saying you should connect to HTTP API service 123. Both the actual URLs of your API and cache are hidden to you. That's service discovery. You don't need to do anything else. But there are more, right? Let's see if it will be easy for me to run on the first go, this thing. That's a screen that you should be seeing. This is now the logging that you're seeing from the .NET Aspire. Container Docker found to be unhealthy. Yes, one thing you need to have is Docker, right? And I'm not running Docker currently. Sorry, I need to start my Docker here. Starting, hopefully. I can also share that. So we'll see at the end. Do we have any images? Yeah, let's delete that. So it will just recreate it. Let's bring that here. And now let's restart. Again, we're getting the output. Let's see what we have here. It popped up a page, this one. I need to bring to my second screen. I hope everything is working just fine and you can see everything I do. Let's see, private chat, comments, everything seems to be in order. So I continue. What do we see here? We changed the name to 123 for the cache and the API service. So we see that name, which is actually that URL. So we are seeing that the endpoint is actually this. Right? For the API service 123, we're seeing that the endpoint is actually this, and another one for the HTTP, if we don't want to use HTTPS for local development, for example. For the web front, we have this for HTTPS and this for endpoint here for HTTP. So all of this was handled internally. Now the web front, it communicates with the cache and the web project and the API, sorry, through these names and not through the actual addresses. We don't care anymore. So we can develop our product here and then deploy it without any worries. I need to try and show you a few more things. For example, console. You just have a console here to see what's happening. You can have the logging of your API service only. This is what's happening in your API service. If you had any log output, you would see it here. From the cache, this is the Redis cache that started the container, and we can also see the container here that was recreated, and actually the image was recreated, and actually you can see it here running. And the front end, whatever logs we might have for the front end. But that's not the only thing we have. We have structured logged. So what does that mean? Let's go back here and let's see one of the web front ends. Let's get that and run it in the browser. Oh, come on. Okay. Hello world. That is custom Blazor app with an API server that randomly selects, gets the weather. If I refresh it, you see that it doesn't refresh because it's caching. It refreshes, I think, every 5 seconds. You can change that. For 5 seconds, it uses Redis, and then it tries to access our API service again to pull new informations. And how do we see that here? So first of all, we have the console. I'm not gonna stay here because we don't have the time. We have our structured logs. We can see everything that happens in one place to search. We have the traces, which is really, really cool. Let's find one thing here. For example, we see here that what happened, if I click the view, is someone started to get that endpoint, the weather endpoint, so this one. The browser link that you see, it's the Visual Studio way of connecting to the browser and controlling it so you can ignore it, but this is still captured, yeah? It's trying to access the Redis cache. The Redis cache decides that it's what's in Redis is old. So instead of just trying, what it's doing now, it's trying to get to communicate with the API service. It's getting the result back from the API service and is sending the result back then again to the cache service. So you have a full tracing of what happened in your application, and even more for the, I don't know, for the cache, you have all the events that happened, all the logs. If I click here, I see all the, I don't know why no structured logs found for this span ID. It should be here. So if I click this one and click logs, to be honest, I have no idea. Maybe, let me refresh. Did I have the latest ones? Where was that? What I was seeing, for example, this one, view, and then let's see weather, and then let's see logs for this span ID. Okay, I don't know, maybe some sort of update. So for that specific span ID, which is like a trace idea, right? It follows you through the infrastructure. For this trace, you see exactly what happened, and if you had detailed logs about an error, you would see the exceptions here. At the end, you can also see metrics, which is, for example, for the API service, I don't know, let's say active requests. We don't have anyone actively asking anything right now. Or DNS lookup duration for the past, for what happened. You have all these stuff. Now, you get all these stuff for free. We didn't do anything. What we did was just to add those two projects, although it was a starter application, to add those two projects in our API, in our solution. And we have all this wealth of information without doing anything, right? But there is more. Since I don't have the time to actually show you exactly how we could deploy that very easily into container apps, let's do the following, because I need to allow some time for questions. Let's do the following. I think I have it. So let's see. .NET Aspire AZD app. Is that what I get? So we have our .NET Aspire application, and we know we need to deploy it. For those of you that you know the AZD CLI, the Azure Developer CLI, it won't be that foreign. For those of you that you don't, just run that in your Windows or Linux, and you will have the AZD CLI. And what does that do? You first run, and let's see how far we can go. You first run AZD init, and then by doing that, let's also do it actually. This is a new machine, so I think I hope I have that installed, but let's do that. Paste anyway. Sorry, I'm not sharing also. So we're installing AZD. Unfortunately, I don't have it, but that's not going to take long. And then what we are running is AZD init. What's happening through init, and this is not the correct, is it the correct tutorial? I think I can show you an even better one. I think that's it. Yeah. What's happening after AZD init? You will be asked a question. If you want to select a new table, start a new Azure Developer project. We have it already. So what we choose is use the code in the current repository, and then AZD scans the repository and will tell you, you know what, I found that application. Do you confirm? Yes, I do confirm. Let's see how progress is doing here. Okay. If you do confirm, then you will get an additional window saying, you know what, which one of those projects is the front-end project, the one that you want to be publicly accessible from the internet? You choose the web form project, and then it's done. What it's doing, it's creating actually all the necessary tools, including YAML file. You know what's my problem now? Where did I create that? I don't remember. Let's find open folder in File Explorer. Correct. Let's get that one. Let's go here and oops, let's do that. Okay, and let's do here now I need to go one back. So that's the root folder, right? That's the API service folder. And then I should do azd init. And the process should start. So it's scanning my repo, it will find the .NET Aspire application, it will ask me those two questions, and the most cool thing after that, you will get the Azure YAML file, you will get bicep files, and you could just type azd app, nothing more, and your application will be deployed in the Azure, in the equivalent Azure infrastructure. After provisioning the necessary infrastructure, you will get everything out of the box working just by typing azd app and following those 3 steps. Now, I know that we should allow some time for questions, and I'm doing that right now. Let me know if you have any questions. Will be very nice. Quite a few read. Failed to generate manifest because it's running already. Let me know if you have any questions, and yeah. I will be trying to see what's happened here. Probably it's because it's running. The application is running, so let's do that again. Use code from this repo, and let's see. Any questions? Did you like .NET Aspire? Is it something that you consider using? Confirm. Enter a new environment name. Let's name it codeweek. This environment name that I added here will be the resource group name if we deploy everything, right? And now I should do azd auth login to log into my Azure subscription. Wrong window, I need it here. So I should close that and retry. Okay, authentication complete, retrieving subscriptions. Actually, I think I again logged into the wrong tenant, but that's okay. We're not going to deploy anything anyway. I see no questions. I wonder if it is because you understood everything or because you can't wait for the next session. I know it's great. So what I will try to do now is this, and then rerun hopefully, yeah, now I'm getting the correct tenant, and now I can just do azd up, and that's done. We will not have time to actually see it happening, but everything will be deployed. Now I want to deploy it into this subscription, and I want to deploy it into West Europe. Why not? It's usually cheaper US, but anyway, that's it. So thank you very much for your time. It was nice being this year again into Code Week. I wish you a very nice rest of the day. And whoever has any questions, don't hesitate, just approach me.